Camera's rolling.
Baby, I'm too young to know any better, but I guess I'm just too old to care. I'm waiting on the morning light to clear the air. Now the sky is on with regret, letting go that you may flag. All the silence that keep me coming back. I'm the one that you hated. You know, the one you didn't want to believe. The one that you hated. Take a look at it now. I'm the mess you created. The one that you hated. Now the sky is on with regret, letting go that you may flag. All the silence that keep me coming back. I'm the one that you hated. You know, the one you didn't want to believe. The one that you hated. Take a look at it now. I'm the mess you
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Dad Talk Today. Hope everybody's doing good. It's Thursday morning. I got a special episode I've been telling you guys about for a while. This one really excites me. We're learning something new. We're going to learn it together. Do me a favor really quick before we get started, whether it's your phone, your computer, whatever it is you're watching from. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and ding the bell so you get the notifications of when we go live. Many ways you can support this show. Down there at the bottom of the screen, Dad Talk Today, no spaces. That's Cash App, Venmo, and Patreon. We also have subscriptions and memberships over there on YouTube. Got the same thing on Facebook. Make sure to go to dadtalktoday.com and get your merch. Today's topic, guys, we're going down under. We're going to do a little investigation on what this family law stuff is like in other parts of the world. I've been telling you that a lot of these other countries got the same thing going on. Rick and Lisa is somebody I started talking to not too long ago, learning about Australia. Not long before that, we had on Senator Pauline Hanson. For those of you that didn't see that episode, go and check it out. As similar as the system is over there, it might be a little bit more rough, guys. There's some stuff that's really going to blow your mind. But if you would, get down there in the comments and let's show some love to them. I want to bring them on the show now. Rick and Lisa, how you doing?
Hello, how are you?
Doing all right. So we finally get it done. Oh, by the way, guys, make sure to get your Dad's Australia shirts. I've been rocking this stuff, dude. I'm actually jealous of the merch. You guys did a really good job. I got to get you some Dad Talk stuff over there. But tell me, how did you guys get involved in this family law stuff and the advocacy work? What brought you to speak up about it?
Yeah, okay, I'll jump in. Well, yeah, I guess when we were going through it, we were looking for support and we couldn't find anything. So what we did is we just started a community page on Facebook. And that was just somewhere where anyone, whether it be a mum, a dad, a grandma, could reach out and just get some support and talk about what they were going through. And I think it was a bit of education as well about what we were experiencing and what others were experiencing within the family law system here in Australia. So from there, it's kind of grown, obviously, over the years. And now we do lots of things. We do our cruises and external supports and, practical supports for families and fuel cards and food hampers and all that kind of stuff now. So.
Did you just say you do cruises?
Yeah.
It's only like a margarita in Vanuatu type cruise, but yeah, like a car and bike cruise once a year.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like a boat cruise.
Yeah, no, not the P&O, no.
No.
That's really cool. I mean, that was what really made me find Pauline in the first place. I saw this event that you guys had done down there, and it was bigger than anything I had saw in the States. And I saw the parental alienation signs and everything. I was like, man, they got a pretty big movement down there, and it caught my attention. And to see Pauline fighting for it like that. Tell us about that event. How long have you guys been putting that on?
Our first was 2021.
Mm.
Yeah, so the first cruise we did in 2021, we kind of, it sounds really bad, but we just really threw it together, expecting maybe, like 50, 60 bikes and cars and things like that. And what ended up happening is we held it at the meet point was Alexandra Hills Hotel in Redlands in Brisbane. And all of a sudden the entire car park, and I mean, this is a huge hotel, the conference center and all the rest of it, it was full. You couldn't move. We had obviously Senator Hanson come and Malcolm Roberts as well come out and support. And Senator Hanson went in one of the Mack trucks that was on the cruise with us. And then Malcolm Roberts jumped on the back of the bike. So he did the entire cruise on the back of a bike with one of our participants that came along on the cruise. And it kind of just blew us away. We
wasn't expected. Like I picked that hotel because it was a Sunday.
Yeah, I think it was a Sunday.
It was a Sunday, and there was nothing. The hotel car park will be empty. Yeah, it's Sunday morning. So I didn't check with the hotel if I could use the car park. I didn't.
Yeah, it was.
And
really,
it was. Yeah, it was.
It's about over 500 cars, bikes, and trucks.
Yeah, vehicles.
It was insane.
A lot bigger than we thought.
We had federal police escorts as well, which was absolutely a little funny story. We stopped at one of our stop points at the Plainlands Hotel, and because of the volume of the bikes and things like that, so over here, that's a no-no for the bikes to get together in big groups like that. And the state police kind of rolled up beside our car and was like, what's going on here, and like really starting to get into us. And then
where are you going?
Yeah,
who are you?
Pauline's escorts, the federal police AFP, came over and flashed their badge at the state coppers and basically told them to move on. So it was a bit of a giggle.
Absolutely. I mean, that is so awesome, but that also shows you just how many people are being affected by it over there. Just how bad of a problem it is. Guys, I want you to pay attention. Like I said, I think it's very similar. I've learned some new terms: Judy lawyers, family centers. It's the same thing. Judy lawyers, that's what you'd call public defender here in America. But tell us, I know you can't say it all in one little sentence, but what's going on in the family courts over there that the world needs to know about?
Well, I mean, there's I was going to say, with the custody, it's 50-50 is just not something that
exists.
I mean, we shouldn't, as a parent, you shouldn't have to beg for 50-50. It should be a default mode. It should be, 50-50 if the location, logistics, and the parents can do 50, get it done, But I think similar over there, Eric, it comes down to, with child custody and the start of family court, there's a few things that come into play, and things like the property pool, they call that here. So a house, the car, the dog.
So your marital pool, basically.
So what happens there when it comes time to split that up, if a parent has the kids 80% of the time and the other parent has the kids every second weekend, the court will deem that property pool needs to go to the parent with the kids, because he or she has to raise the kids for, they're going to need more money, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's where it starts. I feel in sometimes where there's property or money or super. So the husband's super, he might have $1 million in super, superannuation. So, if a parent has the kids, father's getting them every second weekend, well, she's already one up, because the courts are going to give that property pool, it's going to go her way. That's just how it happens here.
Unless they're amicable and they can agree on 50-50, which obviously doesn't happen very often here. But apart from that, you had Pauline that, did an inquiry here in Australia into the family law courts, and there's been multiple recommendations out of that outcome that have been rolled out. So, for example, like the merging here of the Federal and Family Court of Australia. So they merged the two courts together, and amongst all of that, they rolled out a couple of different things. There were pilot programs. One of them was called the Lighthouse Project, and basically it was to triage the applications as they came in and separate them into the appropriate divisions. So now it's Division 1 and Division 2. And that comes down to the complexities that are like within the application. So if you're talking severe allegations or, facts and findings of abuse and things like that, it's obviously going to go to the division that's going to solely look at that a lot more seriously, to something that's a little bit less likely to, consume time and experts and things like that are going to need to be involved. We also have an Indigenous list here in Australia, which I think is only new to potentially, I think this year it only rolled out. And basically that is just solely to deal with applications where cultural considerations need to be given. So, whether you're Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander and things like that. So that's a huge thing here, obviously, because in our Family Law Act, it determines that there is a benefit to the children for those considerations to be made where, there are cultural considerations that need to be considered. So effectively what was supposed to happen here is more judges, more judicial registrars. So here, our senior judicial, I can never say that word, registrars, they can determine applications to a certain extent. So say the parents agree by consent, they've been to mediation and they go before a senior judicial registrar, they can make those orders by consent, which kind of fast tracks things.
It saves it going to a judge, a date for a judge.
Yeah.
So it's taking the workload off a judge and going, all right, senior registers, if the parents are amicable and want to do orders, you have the power to stamp it, sign it, and it's done.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting for a date with the judge. And
that's right.
So
I see some benefits in the system here in Australia, but there is still a huge stigma around, that lack of support for self-represented litigants, for fathers that are going through the system, whether it be aided by legal representation or not represented. There's still a lot to be fixed.
Understand. I definitely understand. Wow. So it definitely seems like the family courts is messed up. One of the things I think, like talking to Pauline, where I think Australia might have the United States beat, is the problem that is surrounding domestic violence. You got some crazy laws surrounding domestic violence. And I don't even know how to even start getting into the subject, but tell everybody a little bit about the problem with domestic violence over there.
It goes hand in hand with family court.
Absolutely.
Custody dispute. You can't have one without the other.
Right.
It's because people can be married for 25 years and there's no issues. All of a sudden,
no allegations.
They've separated and he's got a new partner. And by the way, he was violent. You know what I mean? It's
almost like you call it the weapon of choice.
It is.
When it comes to initiating family court proceedings, it's almost like the playbook. It's
that chess move, that go-to chess move.
Yep.
She goes and sees a solicitor and says, "Hi, we've separated, been married 25 years. First thing, has he ever been violent? Is he violent towards you? Do you feel scared? Is he threatening? Is he intimidating? Tick yes. Yes. Bang. You're already costing him money now because he's going to have to fight to go to court to defend that. If he chooses to defend it, or what we call here is consent without admission. And that's where someone will go to court, they have a DVO, their first date, so their first court mention. A lot of the times here, fathers, they're advised, or just men, they're advised to consent without admission by the duty lawyers. Now, this does quite a few things. I'm sure it speeds up their list.
Yeah, how many dockets?
How many dockets the judge has got? We can get through these really quick. You know what I mean? Yep, I'll cop it on the chin. Next. The other thing it does is it sends the statistics through the roof. So for the DV system itself, the industry,
and it is an industry.
I hate to
use it is. Yes, I get it.
I hate to use that word, but it is an industry like I've never seen.
Well, the thing is, and I've raised this before spoke to politicians about it, but what it does is the funding, because the statistics are going through the roof, the funding for next year is just going to be even more. So the funding keeps going up because we're not fixing the domestic violence at all, you know. But there's a lot of guys going through the system who are getting ill-informed, the wrong advice, and getting told, just, you can consent to it. It's not a criminal matter. You can get on with your life. You don't want to be near her. She doesn't want to be near you. Happy days. And what they're not getting explained is the ramifications of consenting and having a 5-year DV on you for the next 5 years. So, and with if it is false application and you do consent, one has to think, if that other person is that vexatious where they want to put a false DV on you, they're not going to hesitate at making false allegations for a breach for the next 5 years, are they? And that can be, he drove past my house.
Yeah.
I'm getting calls at 2 o'clock in the morning from a private number. That person then is going to find themselves back in court, defending themselves again, going, that wasn't me, I was here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the ongoing effect by consenting is massive. That anytime someone wants to make an allegation of a false breach, you will be dragged in by police.
Yeah.
And that can be your
really,
next 5 years.
It's really not explained. It's not explained well. So when you sit in front of a duty lawyer and they go through your options, usually they'll say you have two options. And very rarely have I heard them say 3. The 2 options are you either consent without admissions or you contest the application. So, and then if they say, like Rick has said, if you consent to it, it's not criminal, it doesn't go on your record, you just get on with your life. What they don't say is, if your ex-partner messages you out of the blue and just says, look, I've really made a mistake, let's catch up, we need to talk, and you even just reply to that text message, you have breached that court order immediately. She can go to the police, even if she was the one or he was the one that instigated that message, and you're in the police station being questioned and likely to be charged with a breach. Then it becomes criminal. Then it is on your record. And as Rick's saying, 5 years is a long time, and so much can change within 5 years, you know, but it's just the lack of education and explanation with these orders and applications that people just aren't getting them. And then the hugest kicker of it, as we said, is like, this is the weapon of choice, using a domestic violence order to give you leverage in family court. You're alienated from your children immediately. So and maybe that 20-year marital house that you've had, say goodbye to it, because you don't get to go near it. You don't get to collect your belongings.
But that's one of the big motivators is, I say these are the steps that I've seen so many guys go through. Is step 1, get the DVO on him, right? Because that gets him out the house. That gets him away from the kids. That starts chipping away at the relationship with the kids. Okay.
Right. Yep.
So you don't get to call them, say goodnight. You don't get to see them on birthdays. That's the first step.
And what happens if they do contact and they got no contact order?
Well, that's when breaches, and that's when they're criminal charges.
They become criminal.
And you will go to jail.
So basically, if you were to contact and the order says no contact, and that person, will then ring the police. The police will contact you, and you will come in to be interviewed if you have committed that breach. And then even if you haven't done it, let's say you haven't done it, you actually have to prove your innocence, that you haven't committed any wrongdoing. And then it's determined whether, if they determine it to be a breach of the order, then you will go before a judge for your penalty.
Give you just one example is I know a guy got a DVO, he's not allowed to contact the children's mother, gets a text, I'd like you to come over, and you haven't seen the kids for, a while. Come over and have dinner, He's gone there literally in 2 minutes. The police have arrived. It was like premeditated. You couldn't get any more premeditated. He was charged and breached. He's got the text message. He's got the text. Yeah. He's thinking, okay, well, that's good. Like, she's maybe wanting to work it out and the best interest of the kids. This is great. He was happy. He was positive, thinking this is so, I get to see my kids tonight. Went there, got charged, got taken. Like there's no repercussions for the other party. One can have a DVO where it says you cannot contact them, but they have full reign to contact you. So it makes no sense. If you're a victim
of domestic violence,
and
why
you don't want that person to contact you, why would you poke the bear? I like to call it, they're poking the bear. They're trying to get a response. That they will text you, they'll text you a couple of times a day. I know some guys text messages straight after court. One guy the other day I was talking to, young fella, he walked straight out of court after consenting without admission to a DVO, right? He said he now knows what a mistake he made. But he said, I walked out of the court, can't see my kids, can't talk to her, can't go to the house. He's got a text message. He's just left the court steps and she's texting him like, see what happens, like antagonizing text messages.
Yeah. And that's where my gripe really comes from, because if you are a true victim of domestic violence, you don't contact your perpetrator.
No, not by any means.
Like common sense would say, why are you contacting them? Like, and then you would get some of these services like domestic violence services, particularly for women, that'll be, like that's the cycle of DV and that's abuse. No, that can also be a vexatious litigant. That's a vexatious person that is willing to put somebody through that, just because they have that bitter hatred and just the relationship has ended poorly.
And how common is for that little bait and switch? How common is that over there?
Really common.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's, and I've heard about it. That is crazy. What does it say about the system that it would actually protect the person that does that? That is what blows my mind.
What it's actually doing is it's taking away resources from real victims of domestic violence. And I'm not just talking about, women or men that are physically assaulted or abused. I'm talking about the coercive control and, text messages like, leave this person and I won't, use the kids against you. Or if you don't pay your child support this week, or if you don't pay me this, you're not going to get to see your children. Yeah. Like there's such motive behind some of it.
I've read messages from guys that have sent me going, Rick, like,
how do I reply?
I pay child support. I pay the school fees. I even pay the car payment she's driving. She's told me if I don't pay an extra $500 this week, I don't have it. I don't get the kids this weekend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas we switch roles, that would be, you'd be dragged over the coals for domestic violence.
If a
man said that to a woman,
my God,
you'd be the poster child for DV.
And that's all right. That's what I'm trying to figure out. You got to give me an extra $500. Now, a man goes and shows that text to a judge in court. Does it hold any weight? Do they do anything about it?
Well, I mean, I haven't really.
You got to go to the police
yet.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anybody that's been able to walk into a police station, a man walk into a police station and show a text message to that degree without an officer just saying that's a family court matter.
Or that a lot of the times they would just go, just give it time. You know what I mean? When did you separate? Just give it time. That they downplay it and minimize it when it's a man.
Gotcha. Well, let me ask you the other side of this when we're talking about domestic violence. If I was a man over there and my spouse or girlfriend or whatever was hitting me and I went and reported it, what would that look like? Do they do stuff about domestic violence when it's committed on the man?
Well, I'll raise, because this came up that we've over the last 18 months. We've actually supported about 3 current police officers who are going through the system. So not seeing their kids, family court. One example was his ex printed out flyers, like thousands of flyers, and distribute them around his whole area with his name, his address, and that he's a perpetrator of all ABC allegations, all this. He's a police officer, and they wouldn't do anything. The courts, it all got dropped. They wouldn't pursue that as domestic violence. Like now, if switch the roles, if that was a man making flyers about his ex-wife, naming his ex-wife,
You'd be
It'd be all over the
mainstream
media.
news.
It'd be all over the media.
So that was another thing. It was talking to Pauline. She was telling me something like, if you got the no contact order and you contact anyway, can I see my son? That could be considered domestic violence. What all is considered domestic violence there?
Well, probably the question is, what isn't?
What is?
Okay.
It's such an open thing, Eric,
Yeah.
because it's.
What isn't considered domestic violence these days?
Do
And
you feel intimidated?
Well,
you know what I mean? Like I've got a friend, he's 150 kilo, big lad. Just him walking in a room, some people would feel intimidated. If that's domestic violence.
Look, and I don't like. There
couldn't have a
probably might be
disagreement.
a lot of
Him just walking in the room and people feeling scared could be domestic violence.
Well, what I'm saying is, there's got to be that part.
Potential. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So in Australia, obviously, there has, like in the legislation, there has to be what's called a relevant relationship with that person that you're alleging something against.
Okay.
So related to married, children,
or
etc.
Yeah. And then so there has to be a relevant relationship. There's three boxes. Relevant relationship. Have acts of domestic violence occurred? And is it necessary or desirable for an order to be made? So those are the three things that have to pass. But when I say that, it's just most of the men that walk in for their first mention already have a temporary protection order on them, because the application's already gone before a judge. It's been heard ex parte or without him present, with him absent, and the order is made as a precautionary method to protect the aggrieved person, the person making the allegation. So that's already been done. So by the time that person, the respondent, gets into court for their first time in front of a judge to argue whether there have or haven't been acts of domestic violence, it's basically too late because there's already a temporary protection order.
Yeah, a court's already deemed that.
A court's already deemed that it was
desirable
necessary
and desirable. So you're already
behind the eight ball.
Yeah.
Oh, that is.
And I should say, like, when I'm laughing and I'm saying what isn't considered domestic violence, I'm not downplaying or making light of a situation that is huge in society and taking away from the fact that there are absolutely victims of domestic violence. So I'm not trying to minimize or be disrespectful to that, but there is a certain stage where you just have to call out the BS in this and just go, it's getting out of control. You're moving the goalpost so damn far, no one's going to have a chance, particularly a man.
And that's, I've reached out to some of the domestic violence organizations trying to get them to sit down with us. They all want to talk to us. And at the same time, when I do get to speak to them, I'm like, look, we're on the same team. We're not on here saying that domestic violence is okay. We are just as against domestic violence.
We've got daughters, we've got sons. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But we are on the same team because the same ones that are keeping these parents from being able to love their kids and that are making these allegations, because it's becoming so common, is taking away the reality of what's happening to the real victims, because there's no consequences for it. It's just completely out of whack. I'm just curious. I know we talked about this before, but speaking about this, how big was the Johnny Depp trial there in Australia?
It was huge.
Was it?
Yeah.
It was huge. There wasn't a channel that it wasn't played on, or like even on our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, the memes, or just the clips from pieces of being in court and things like that. It was enormous.
I think it died down very quick.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to keep running with it and open up the can of worms that it is.
Because it goes against the narrative, right?
That's right. Whereas it once he was found, not guilty and things like that, it was, let's drop it now. All right, let's talk about the slap. You know what I mean? Like
the Chris Rock slap.
You know what I mean? Like, and we're still talking about that shit a year later. You know what I mean?
Are they really?
Yeah, we don't mention Johnny Depp now.
Dude, that was just so crazy. And, I know people think that it was so popular because it was just Johnny Depp. That definitely had an element to it. But I was just sitting there wondering, like, how many men are sitting back saying, Amber Heard was my ex. I've been through this. And for the first time, it feels like they were getting some type of justice.
Their story.
What Johnny was going through, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
And it highlights the fact that no evidence, just words on a bit of paper. And I'm talking about just an allegation. Just an allegation can destroy a person's life. You know what I mean? In the system here, like
And the
that's
other
all you
thing
need.
is, it's kind of like, and I don't want to compare the two because I understand that they are two really separate issues. But when you're talking about like sexual assault allegations and family and domestic violence allegations, you know, once you've made that allegation, it's made. Now, whether you found to have not done anything at all, or, you know, it changes the views and interpretations of those closest around you. And that's family and friends and public and, you know, your community, whoever you're linked in with, and things like that.
Well, you see it a lot of times, football players, you know. I don't know what the NFL players are like over there, but, you know, it tends to be football players, actors.
Yeah.
They get these allegations. They go through a horrendous, you know, 18 months before they get to a trial. They're found not guilty. They're cleared. But their name has been dragged through the mud. They've lost family. They've got friends that turn their back on them, you know, job opportunities.
Yeah.
It's no different here for the average bloke that, you know what I mean, can't walk into work because he knows he's got these allegations against him.
Yeah, you don't need to be a Johnny Depp for it to affect your life and your career and everything surrounding you.
But they're not listening to the average blokes. I just got to ask, what is a bloke? I've heard you. I'm guessing it just means a regular guy, right?
Yeah, just your average Joe.
The opposite to a Sheila.
Oh, is that what you? That's the female version is the Sheila.
That's just a bit like very Aussie slang.
Very Aussie slang. So a bloke is a man and a Sheila is a girl, a woman.
Okay. I'm learning. I'm learning here. I'm soaking it all up. Let me ask, before we got on here, we were talking a little bit about Section 121. Lisa, can you tell everybody about what that is and what you can and can't do?
Yeah, so here in Australia, under the Family Law Act, there is a Section 121, and it basically says that you cannot speak, identify any parties to any proceedings within your matter. So say you are still in court and you jump on Facebook and you're on a community page and you make a post about a judge or something that's going on in your matter, and you name someone specifically, or you even make out where somebody could identify, oh, that's Bob from down the road and Sue's matter. I've heard Sue speak about that. If it can be identified, and even more so if it gets published, so any social media platform or print news, you can be referred to federal police here in Australia to be prosecuted, and the maximum penalty is up to a year imprisonment. So when we support our fathers or mothers or grandparents, anybody that's going through it, because look, let's be honest, a lot of dirty laundry is aired on social media platforms. And it's also not just that, it's also a lot of the places where people go for support, and to vent and think that they're not actually doing anything wrong. But for the Australian people that might be watching this right now, and I'm sure that there's something over there in the US as well, please make sure that you're not doing that, because, all it takes is someone to screenshot or intercept what you've said, put it in an affidavit or in front of a judge, and you're really going to be held accountable for that. So, the severity of that is very real, and you need to, I think the other side of things is the learning point is that it's your business. You don't need to necessarily air it to a huge extent, right? So keep your stuff to you. Keep it, try and reach out to other support organizations in a more private arena, private platform, and go with that. But yeah, it's here in Australia, you can, particularly if it's been published in news or media, you can be in a lot of strife. So, but I think it, I can't speak for everyone, but once you've been through your matter, usually if it's published, you'll get a pseudonym. So it'll be, Bob, Jane, and, whatever. And the names will be changed around. And I think then you can talk about it, but only in the pseudonym form.
Gotcha. It was like you're saying, it's hard because sometimes when you're a man, you feel isolated. You feel like that social media is the only place that you can get that voice out. But guys, no, it's anything you say and or do, if you are a man, will be used against you. I promise you.
You might have a dad support page and there might be 1,000 members.
Just remember, mum.
Just remember, you know,
mum, her
500
friend.
of those members are the exes of the guys. Like they're on
And
there,
the
guys.
friends.
They're on there looking for
Yeah.
you know you to post a photo of you and your kids. You know when you know that's it's just not the place.
There's always someone watching. Let me put it that way.
And it's sad because these guys should feel encouraged to speak up and to organize, you know, and that's what events like you did. That's amazing, man. Are you guys talking about doing some more events or maybe trying to organize more per year? Is there any local meetup groups for these guys?
There's definitely some local dads organizations that meet up around the place in Brisbane and surrounding areas, and they'll meet. Like I think there's a couple in Dandenong in Melbourne and things like that as well. So they are kind of starting to pop up, the support centers around the place. The other thing is, yes, to answer your question, yes, we do have our 2023 cruise coming to a spot near you. I can't give away too much information yet, but yeah, we do have the planning going on in the background here, and this year we're just going to focus on the cruise. You know, last year I think we did a lot more with entertainment and kids rides and all that kind of stuff, and this year we're just going to pull it right back to like how we ran it the first year in 21, and really make that stand. And yeah, I think we'll probably do it towards the end of the year, I think is where we're aiming for, but we'll definitely hook you up with dates and everything.
Yeah, definitely. Let me know. So talk about Dads Against Discrimination Support. Where did the name come from, and what all do you guys do with this?
Well, that's pretty much in a nutshell what it began as, because personally going through the system, you know, particularly at the start, as Lise mentioned earlier, there was little to no support. You know, there was no guidance, there was no support networks, there was nothing, or that we could find anyway.
And he was heavily discriminated against.
And that's what we're finding. It's simply because you're a dad, you're discriminated against. And a lot of people read that and go, oh, dads, they're just for dads. No, it's fathers against discrimination.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of our supporters are grandparents.
Yeah.
Because they get it.
A demographic across our social platforms.
A lot of them are women.
Yeah.
45% of Dad Talk is women. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's partners, sisters, mothers, grandmothers.
Yeah. Supporting these guys going, you know, this just happened to my partner or my brother. If he did that to her, he'd be in jail right now. There's a clear discrimination. The minute you walk into our courts, it hits you in the face area. Because you can walk into the South Court, Gold Coast Magistrates Court right now today, and they have a whole area for women.
Tea, bickies,
blankets, you know,
you name it. It's
support counselors, or in a separate area. The men, you sit your ass on a bench out the front here. 2023, gender equality.
There is none.
You can't just pick and choose gender equality when you want to, like, you know what I mean? Like,
when you want to scream it from the roof.
Let's split the room in half and go, all right, that half's for the men then. You know what I mean? Like it's.
And I'll often do it now when I walk into a courtroom, or not so much a courtroom, sorry, but when I walk into a courthouse, supporting somebody that's going through it, and usually I'm with the men. There have been the odd occasion with women, particularly for child protection matters and things like that. But I will immediately ask the registry staff for a private room, and they will look at me like I think I'm Whitney Houston or something, and that I need, like, you know, a green room with, you know, everything because I've got a man standing beside me, and I will stay there, and we will get a room. We get a room, and and I mean that's only one person that I'm helping at a time, obviously. But why, as Rick said, in 2023, do we not have the equal support for a man that we have for a woman?
It's but no one calls it out, and as I said, there's only the one guys down here that in that arena that actually call it out for what it is, you know. But it is discrimination. I mean, I find it ironic that we're in a courthouse full of solicitors and judges and barristers, but yet
the open discrimination.
People are getting openly discriminated against every day.
Yeah.
But we ignore that. You know, there's a, you know, I'm waiting for someone to go get the balls and go, you know, I'm suing the fucking state for discrimination right now. This is discrimination.
I mean, I agree. I
You know?
agree. But we know what happens when you go up against the system. Unfortunately, yeah. They'll try to put the kibosh on that. I mean, you was talking about child protection. Do you have a CPS down there, like a child protection services?
Yeah. So through the Queensland Police, there's child protection unit.
Child protection unit. Okay.
And then we also have what's called child safety here, or it's I've renamed it now. It's child youth, and women. You know, so no
So again,
name of man men or anything like that. And it's the same with the literature. Any flyer that you pick up in a courthouse or in a support organization, you will not see one flyer there that says that they support men. Not one. The narrative in the writing of it is all, we support women and children. You know, we support women.
Even the legislation, it's all in the legislation. It's elderly, Indigenous, women, children.
Yeah.
Those are what the legislation deem that can be deemed a vulnerable person. So men aren't even mentioned.
No.
So
don't even get a look in. I don't even understand.
You can be hogtied, getting beat on your front lawn. As far as the legislation's concerned, you cannot be a victim. Yeah. And this raises an interesting point, Eric, because as I said earlier, we've actually supported current police officers who've reached out for help. Now, I've been informed by a couple of them, and they've told me about compulsory training that the state police, so here in Queensland, that there's a 3 or 2 day course that the Queensland police compulsorily have to do around DV. Okay. The numbers of police officers quitting the force is through the roof. And there's officers getting up and walking out of the classroom and literally putting their resignation in because they're refusing to do it. And what's upsetting them so much, Eric, is the narrative in the training that they're pushing is that they're saying, if you turn up to an incident, you investigate, and I'll use their words, you investigate the incident until you find that she is the victim. So that means, and obviously guys have gone, well, okay, we turn up, the guy's bleeding, they're laying on the ground. He's saying she bashed him. You find out what he did to her
to make her do
that.
Pisses me off. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I get it.
It's enough for guys to quit. It's enough for guys to quit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm done because everything they're taught about investigating is throw that shit out the window. If there's a man and a woman DV incident,
you keep going until
she's the victim. Now, again, you spoke about the money trail earlier about child safety. There's got to be some sort of money trail there with the statistics. Like I said to you, the funding.
Getting there. We're going to find out. We are going to find out. I promise you, dude. Tell me about the child support system there. What's the child support system like?
Well, there's a formula.
Okay.
That's what they tell you.
The magic formula.
If you
there's a formula.
You can be on the phone for 3 hours, and I tell you now, you can say to them, look, just.
You need one of those fancy math calculators to work out what they're.
You just say to them, look, you know, I'm a dumb ex-army. I'm not real smart. Dumb it right down for me, you know. Can you explain to me how you work it out? We use the formula.
Yeah, that's
their fallback. Every time they will not explain to you how it's done because I don't think they know how to do it. It's like a robotic automated system, and
Yeah,
They
I'm
just
sure in,
it's the formula. That's
I'm
what
sure
I'll say.
I'm sure in their ways the formula makes sense to them, but they certainly don't know how to explain it. And the other thing that we only just talked about this the other day is that you can't walk into a child support office and actually sit down with someone and have them explain.
Do you have that over there? Can you actually go and meet someone from child support over there?
Yeah.
We can't here. They're hidden. They're hidden. You don't. There's
You
no
can't-
address.
there's no address.
There's no office.
There's no office. I
What?
can't make an appointment and go and sit down and speak with a service representative. No, doesn't exist. It's all over the phone.
You think the white rhino is protected? I'll tell you now. Child support. Yeah.
So I know, like most states, I think in the States, like
Hang on.
if you get a problem with child support, or like you're paying too much or you need an adjustment, you get a chance like once every 3 years. Most of the time, they don't listen to anything you got to say. So even if they can find an agent, I'm not telling you that it's much help, but they can usually get in touch with somebody to find out what's going on because they need that money coming through the system. They don't care about if it's hard on you. They just want to know, where's my money?
Yeah, but is that just over the phone, or can you actually? Is there
like an office space that you
there's offices. Every state's different. I would believe, if we was live, I'd ask the guys, if they could speak. But I know in Georgia, there's definitely places that you can go to. Department of Family and Children's Services is, I think, what it is in Georgia. It's different in each state. Are they much help? That is something I wouldn't say, but do they exist? Yes.
There you go. Well, no, not for us. Not for us. Probably for good reason. They're very difficult to deal with on the best of days.
And that's where the interaction with fathers is, the reputation is terrible. And that comes down to, Eric, is they know they're untouchable. You don't know where they work. You can't go see their boss. No. You know what I mean? So they're rude, they're arrogant.
They can be whatever they want to be over the phone. But the second you say that you're recording them,
you leave that to the end when you say, "Well, I just want to let you know I've recorded this call." Oh my God, I've got record.
It blows up.
They lose their shit.
Blows up.
Are you allowed to record?
No.
Well, apparently not.
Apparently not.
It's
Apparently.
Okay, I got you. Section 121. We're
no,
not.
That's family court.
That's family court.
No.
You can record your calls in Australia.
Under the Telecommunications Act. So under the Telecommunications Act, if I'm having a conversation with you right now
on the phone,
and I have my phone on me, it's on me and I'm holding it on my person, I don't have to tell you that I'm recording you because I'm having that conversation.
Yeah.
But if I put this phone down and we're having a conversation, it then becomes surveillance.
Okay, you need to hold it all the time. Make sure it's always
on your person. Yeah.
Because what happened, and this was explained, this is around, I'll take it back to related to family court, is, dad's doing changeovers, okay? You want to protect yourself. A lot of guys had allegations. They need to go and meet mum in a park and change over the kids, A lot of dads will record, put their phone in their pocket and record, because next week there's an allegation in an affidavit saying that you swore at her, threatened her. You know what I mean? So they got that as a protection. So why it was explained to us was by the solicitors was in Queensland anyway. There's different laws in different states, so just like over there. But if you put it down, that's surveillance, because you can get up and walk away. So, if you're sitting on a park bench with your ex, you want to record to protect yourself, that's fine. Keep it in your pocket, because if you get up and walk away, you're not recording her. Whereas if you put your phone down on the park bench, you get up and walk away, play with the kids or do something, you're surveillancing what she's saying.
Yeah. And then that's an act of domestic violence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not funny. Everything is domestic violence. Hold up. So let's get into this, because I got one more thing I want to say after that. You talk about domestic violence being an industry. What do you mean by that? How do you think that domestic violence is the industry over there?
Because, as Rick said before, nothing's changing. We're not breaking the cycle of domestic violence, and we're not seeing statistics lower. to me says something. So therefore it's an industry where people are making money. So you've got people sitting on six-figure salaries, you know, because they're in some organization and they're the head honcho of that organization. But that 6 figures could be going to resources for people that need it right now, immediate emergency accommodation, safe phones, relocation with flights and things like that, or to the actual domestic violence centers, you know, for more beds, you know, and, you know, more places for women and men to go to. But let's be honest, there is nowhere in Australia for men to go to. If you're experiencing domestic violence, there are no shelters, like specific DV shelters for men.
One particular incident that comes to mind was a father and his 3 kids. You know, he reached out and he's needing somewhere to stay, and we're doing our best to organise that. He rang domestic violence shelter, you know, and they just said to him, "Look, you can't stay here with your kids. It's against the law to allow men and kids to stay here, okay? Because it's a women's shelter." So their advice was find a roadhouse that has good lighting and sleep in your car with your kids. So their advice was at least be safe. You know, don't park in a dark park. Go park at a roadhouse under the light. And that's Australia. That's a guy with 3 kids. You know, there's the support is next. It's none. You know.
But you have to ask yourself, with how many millions of dollars get rolled out for domestic violence prevention, why the hell we still have the problem we have? Like what? How? Like I have to ask myself how, when they're even allocating, and I think we've had this conversation with you before, even pets are covered under the Domestic and Family Violence Act.
Yeah.
Men are.
That was in the funding. You could speak to it. I think Pauline Hanson.
Yeah.
When they did the budget, it wasn't last year, it might have been the year before, but it was something that really stood out, and it was the budget. They announced the budget, and it was, you know, so many million to this, so many million to women, and, you know, domestic violence, so many million for pets of domestic violence.
But as a man, you get nothing.
And that those millions go to animal shelters to take in animals that have a broken home, but yet the fathers living under a bridge somewhere, you know, like
this is the problem, and this is where it comes down to the gender bias, is that it's actually, it's not a gender-based issue, it's a humanities-based issue. You know, as a human rights act, why a man isn't considered within that funding, I struggle to understand that. I can't comprehend it.
But yeah, half their voters are men. But this is the thing: so many men don't even know that where the money's going, where their taxes are going. You know,
us men really need to learn how to organize a little bit better. That's where I will put some of this. But most of them are at work. Let's be honest. If you're going through this and you're paying this type of stuff, they're at work. It's no different over here. But for any of the American guys that are tuning in right now, I don't know if it's showing you, kind of revealing itself like it is with me. This might sound like a complete hogwash to you guys, because you're not going to know what I'm talking about. But in America, if you look up the Violence Against Women's Act and what's called the Duluth model, that was what a lot of the domestic violence laws were based upon here in the States.
It's the same.
You have the same dang thing, man.
We have the same.
It's the same model here.
The Duluth model. That's
is it the Violence Against Women's Act there too?
Yeah.
That's the same model that it's run off here. And if you read that, you won't see I can't even tell you a page
doesn't
to
mention
turn
men.
to for men. It's just written for. It's just written for women, and I'm a woman, you know.
And we've got daughters. Like I said, you know, it's domestic violence is it's wrong on every level. You know what I mean? I don't want to see my daughters ever controlled by their partner or feel intimidated. I wonder if they don't want to be there. You know what? You have the right to leave, and that's it. You can end that relationship. You don't need to be stuck there.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to see that for any woman, but I don't want to see a guy. Fathers who can't leave that marriage either because they've already been threatened. You won't see your kids, and I'll take you for everything. I know guys who are staying married until their kids are 18 because they know They've been
family
warned.
court, child
I'll drag you
support.
through family court, mate. I'll make your
Oh,
life
yeah.
hell.
Yeah.
So they stay there, you know.
Absolutely, man. And I mean, another thing, like for you, the Americans watching Title 4D, there has got to be a money trail. We're gonna find it. We're gonna find it.
The Australian version of it.
Yes, the Australian version of it. Somehow it's hidden in there, but it's got to be connected because they don't just make this for the sake of making it, guys.
No, like I said, it's not designed and put in place for the benefit of a parent.
Right.
There's got to be, as you said, that money trail that leads to the government profiting from
This somehow.
Absolutely, but and they probably do in a way is with you got predominantly one parent has more care. There's a lot of single mothers, that parent that normally has the children full time. A lot of them don't work, but in saying that, they get free daycare.
Sometimes.
If they don't work. If they're unemployed, they get free daycare and things like that.
There's definitely incentive, is how I'll put it, for a woman to be single. There's single parent pension, then there's child support,
rent assistance,
there's housing assistance, there's all sorts of
Section 8.
Okay,
that's the same thing. I'm telling you, man, it's crazy listening to this. Yeah. I'm curious with the advocacy work and with what you guys have been doing. Are you seeing things getting any better, or are they just continuing to get worse?
Sadly, the narratives, the stories are very similar from father to father. Like it's almost like, as I said, it's almost like there's a handbook or a textbook out there for women, and they're just kind of ticking off the list.
Same thing.
So many similarities, right? Like everybody's journey is individual to themselves, but there's so many similarities. And I haven't physically been in the family court that often recently, but behind the scenes, we are hearing some wins. We are hearing men that are starting to stand up, and that they are going through the trial process. So they're
judges, every now and then you hear about this judge that like tore strips, and called out what the mother was doing. You know what I mean?
We are seeing it slowly but surely.
Very few and far between.
Very minuscule. It is rare. It is
Yeah.
rare, but it also, like I said, it comes down to the person, what you're emotionally strong enough to cope with. This is a huge thing that you'll never experience anything else like this in your life.
The advice I give to a young dad I was talking to the other day, who's just started out, he just
only young fella
considered the DV without admission, and he spent 6 hours in mediation, all this sort of stuff. And I said to him, just remember that your next couple of years, possibly, think of it as a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah.
It's not going to be over in 12 months. Don't listen to what the solicitors say. Prepare yourself for a long, you know what I mean? Like that's the hard truth of it. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And when you first start out the gates, you want it done. You just want to see your kids. You just want to pay her out. You want to do this. You want to get on with your life. You might have a new partner. It's not going to happen. It's a marathon.
But the biggest thing, there are support groups out there. There really are. Like I'm not familiar, obviously, with the ones in the States, but more and more there are more support groups here now, more than there was, 7 years ago for us, to support men and their families that are going through this. So there's definitely more support.
It has moved forward. Even the topic, it's.
I've seen it evolve. Yeah.
There's definitely more talk about parental alienation, what it is.
Yeah.
And
what is
the vexatious DV, industry, like what that is, what does that look like? So, and guys are educating other guys. It's spreading. The big thing is do not consent.
Yeah.
We talk about consent laws and all that, but DV, don't consent. Go in there, first date, first mention. No, I don't consent. I'll be seeking legal advice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And either go get legal advice or reach out to one of these, fathers groups and get some advice. Because there are guys on there that, really knowledgeable in that area.
Mm.
And even if you're self-representing, go in there, stand up.
Educate yourself. That's the biggest thing.
Well, actually, yeah. But I did when you say that, because I got to tell you this one thing. There's a guy that went to court for DV, and he stood up, and we were supporting him, and he's self-represented, right? He's a nice guy. He stood up, and he's educated himself. He's researched. He's watched videos. He's read the Family Law, the DV Act. He's very smart man.
Mm.
He stood up, and the judge obviously said something about, this constitutes domestic violence, and with respect, Your Honour, I wish to speak. I refer to Chapter 11, Section 2. It doesn't constitute this because of this. Blah 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 blah. He smashed the judge.
Yeah.
I have concerns about how much knowledge you have of the system. That's concerning to me.
That was the judge's
That's the judge's comments to him. He's like, with respect, Your Honour, should it not please you that I have educated myself, that I know what domestic violence is?
Yeah.
Like I've, they don't like it. They don't like it when you're educated either.
No.
Because they prefer a deer in headlights, where whatever they say, you just, yes, sir, 3 bags full, next. But get educated,
Yeah.
It
is hard, and it is a lot of reading. It's a lot of reading, especially if you're not a reader. But if you have an understanding of the process and what you're walking into, you're going to be more calm in your presentation, more prepared, and more calm in yourself, because the biggest thing, the biggest telltale and the biggest giveaway will be your emotion. And if you can't control that, you're going to have difficulties navigating, something that's going to be a positive outcome for you.
Emotions are good for women, not you men.
That's aggression. That's aggressive.
Aggression. Yeah, that's aggression. Yeah, but if she cries, you're screwed, man.
Yeah, I know. I obviously got the good wicket. Sorry, guys.
There you go. Hey, we're getting near the end of the show, but Rick and Lisa, I have enjoyed this so much, and I'm glad that we've been able to connect. And I'm definitely going to try my best to kind of keep it as much of an eye over there. Obviously, we're doing everything we can over here, but this really is a worldwide movement. And that's why I think shows like what we're doing right now is so important. And then talking to Pauline is this. I mean, we're fighting the same battle, and guys got to unite, man. I mean, as isolated as we feel in each one of these countries, imagine if we all came together. We're the other half of the world, man.
The UK is another massive.
Yeah.
We get a lot of messages and from guys over there, Ireland.
Yeah. A lot of advocates over there.
Yeah. So it's everywhere, man. Yeah.
We're definitely going to do, what we can and start reaching out to some more of these places, because I got a heart for it, man. I really do. I've had a couple of people ask me, like, Eric, why would you want Dad talking about Australia? It's the same damn thing, man. We want people to care, because people should care about men. They should care about stuff like this. And the more that we just sit back and don't do anything is how it got here in the first place. We really got to give some sunshine to it so we can get that disinfectant. And I want to say thank you to you guys so much for the hard work that you're doing over there. I mean, you caught my eye when I saw your event. I was like, that was the most impressive thing I've seen around these issues. I'll be honest. You did an amazing job. You really did. You did.
Pressure to see you then. Thanks for that.
Well, with Wade Jennings headlining, it's going to be big.
Oh.
Hey, I'll have to let Wade know. I'll have to let Wade know about that. He's a good friend. I think we could pull that one off.
I love his music.
If anybody wanted to reach out to you, or they wanted to follow you guys, tell them about your social media links and how they can get in contact.
So Facebook, the Dads Against Discrimination Support.
You'll see the logo, like on our shirts, the hands.
Yeah, same logo. And then basically
Instagram and TikTok as well. He's very savvy with TikTok.
Not savvy at all.
Are you on TikTok, Rick?
He's on TikTok.
You should call it the Rick Talk.
Rick Talk, yes.
I'm sorry, that was horrible.
I love it. That's a dad joke. I love that.
Yeah.
They can definitely reach us on the social platforms, and all of our contact details are on that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Well, like I said, we're definitely going to keep an eye on it, and we will be in touch.
Thank you for having
What's
us.
Good on you, Eric.
What time is it there right now?
11:30.
11:34
In the morning,
in the
which is
morning.
around what time this is going to be playing. It's nighttime here. So that's been one of the challenge getting in touch with you guys. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So good morning to you. It's good night here, and we will see you guys next time.
We'll see
All
you
right,
soon.
Eric. Take care, man.
Hey everybody, Eric Carroll here. Thank you for tuning in to another exciting episode of Dad Talk Today. While we fight for you, we would ask for you to please help fight for us. Like, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell so you get notifications every time we go live. There's also Super Chat, patreon.com/dadtalktoday, and other ways you can support our channel. Thank you for being here.